Tax season is here, which means you've received or are expecting that tax refund any day now, and you're thinking about what to spend it on. How about a new home? With SaveWithConrad.com, we're helping renters become homeowners every single day, and it's more affordable than you think. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need a huge down payment. In fact, you may not need a down payment at all. At SaveWithConrad.com, we take the stress out of the home buying process. We'll determine your buying power. We'll even help you find a realtor. And unlike the banks, we don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. So if you're not ready right now, we'll get you on a plan to be ready. Stop throwing your money away, paying someone else's mortgage with your rent, and start the path towards owning your own home today at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 32416, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.
Words are about to be spoken on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, which is presented to you, of course, by the Ad Free Shows Network and Podcast Heat Networks. I'm John Alba. That's the woken one, broken one, spoken one himself, Mr. Matt Hardy, and the Gothic baby.
The Gothic baby is here. Tell everyone hello, Evermore.
Hello.
Hello. You just wanted to come in and say hi to all your adoring fans, right? And show them your beautiful dress. Whoa, look at this.
She was so
dress.
over last week, we had to bring her back.
Yeah, you're so over. Oh, what a little model.
This is like Titanic. You're like holding her on the edge of the world here.
It is. Evie, say, I'll see you guys at WrestleCon.
WrestleCon.
Yeah.
There you go.
See everyone at WrestleCon.
There you go.
Evie, tell everyone bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Woo, go to your mother, please. Wee, don't go play with Whoopi. Okay, Dada's got to go to work. Dada's got to go to work and talk shop.
We're right out of the gates here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hey, she's half-ass over, so you got to give the people, as the best friends would say, Matt, you got to give the people what they want. You know?
You got to give the people what the people want.
I don't know if I can do a quick zoom on that, but I'll see what I can do afterwards.
All right, gotcha.
I love the best friends. You a best friend supporter?
I do. I'm a big fan of Best Friends. I like both the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy as well.
Of course. We know that. We know you're a big fan of the Orange Taker, no doubt about that.
Yes.
Well, what's going on, man? We had our Fatal 4 episode last week. Today, we find out who's on to the championship round of the greatest of all time tournament, the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be...
It's going to be exciting. And I'm going to get this Gothic baby out of here who's not trying to do planches on me. Out of the chair. All right, go. Rebecca. Evie, go. Go to Mama Evermore. Evie.
Always blissful
Evie.
chaos in House Hardy.
Maxel.
Absolute blissful chaos.
Rebecca, please come get Gothic baby. There's a Gothic baby spill. In the craft room, please come get Gothic baby.
I had someone say to me, they're like, man, listen, I like your podcast, but it's infinitely better when the kids do the run-ins.
It is. So it's good when they do the run-ins, but then they're aware they have to run out also. Sometimes when they want to stick around a little longer than they need to. Sometimes it's a little much. But
Maxel's pretty good about knowing when to run out.
Maxel's good. He's good. I actually told him later, I said, if you are dressed and you want to come in and talk about riding a bike, we can, if you're down for that. Evie, oh my God. Evie just shut the door. Please get Evie. All right, Maxwell, come in and talk real quick.
Chaos.
But I got to get you to get Evie out of here because you're the only adult child that we have right now. There's one adult child, and that is Maxel Danger Hardy.
Danger is his middle name.
Yeah, Danger is his middle name. He lives a dangerous life.
Come on.
Hey, Maxwell, come here. Come here real quick. Jump on here.
What's up, Maxel?
Tell everybody about riding your bike, about the experience.
I got on your bike and it's really fun.
Here, put this on real quick. You can probably trim this up a little bit. All right. Maxel, so were you nervous about riding your bike in the beginning?
A little.
And was I on you that you can do it and you're going to enjoy it?
Yeah.
And are you glad that you did it now?
Yeah.
Tell me how it feels when you ride your bike.
Really nice.
Is it fun?
Yeah.
Are you wanting to ride further and further and further now?
Yeah, but I'm gonna go deliver these batteries to Mama.
Okay.
It's
do
like
that.
it's like
Thank
I
you.
ain't got time for this.
Yeah. Hey, deliver Gothic baby to Mama too, please. Keep her out.
Anyway, a wild week at the compound for sure. I have no doubt about that. Sounds like there was some bike riding among other activities. And of course, Matt, we had a lot going on in the world of Hardy in general because we are now, man, what are we? We are about a week and a half away as we tape this from the Philadelphia. That is going to be Friday, of course, April 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern. On over to John Alba SFC, JONALBA SFC at gmail.com. It's $15 for anyone who wants to participate in that seminar cast, podminar, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a great time. Cannot wait for it. We got a lot of interest in this thing. I anticipate the Monster Factory to be packed. So make sure you get in on that. Shoot an email, johnalbasfc at gmail.com for that. I can't wait. These are going to be two awesome events, and WrestleMania week is upon us. We're going to talk a little bit about WrestleMania season here. And also, you talked about tables, ladders, and chairs, Matt. We got the Rivals documentary that aired on A&E between you guys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian. I know you had a family screening of that. What'd you end up thinking of this?
Yeah, it was very cool. So I'd set it to record. We were actually doing something the night that it originally aired, and we watched it a little bit later. We watched it together as a family, and it was cool because Max was seeing some of my stuff, but now he's at the point where he's starting to understand like what a tables, ladders, and chairs match is. He's at the point where he's like taking better bumps and whatnot in the ring. He's getting bored out of here. There was Queen Rebecca calling him, and it was cool because he got to see it, and I could just. The look in his eye, you can kind of see that he gets the bug a little bit watching it, especially when he goes to the ring. And I posted a video where, Barty's doing leg drops. Barty's all in on everything wrestling, but Max will do a splash off the top or a swanton. He did a Harlem hangover at one point, so it's cool because they Maxwell's at the age where he can start to comprehend exactly what we've done and like the impact we've made and the legacy we've created. So they really enjoyed it. It was cool to watch that with the family. And once again, hats off to WWE and A&E for doing such a great job on that. I wish Jeff and I could have had some updated interviews for it. All of her stuff was really, really old. It was so funny listening back to me talk in 1999. We did a piece and we all sat down for interviews right after the tag team ladder match. And Jesus Christ, this Southern accent in my voice is so strong and so thick. That was way before it leveled out a little bit better. I'm still a Hebrew from Podunk Cameron, but Jesus Christ, it was so deep in 1999. It was crazy.
That drawl. You had it,
Yeah.
man. You had something, you just had some peanut butter stuck on the roof of your mouth, you know? Trying to
Raised in the woods, brother. Raised by wolves.
No, it's awesome, man. That's great that you guys got the flowers, you got the recognition, and to relive those years must have been so much fun. And I'm sure for the kids to see that, like you said, Maxel, appreciating it a little more.
Right.
That's what put the Hardys on the map. It's what put the Dudleys on the map. It's what put Edge and Christian on the map. So glad that WWE, for a long period of time, I feel like a lot of WWE documentaries were very like revisionist history, but
Yes.
now I feel like they've opened their minds a little more on some of that stuff.
100%. Their minds have been much more open. Once again, because you look at it, you have 4 individuals, and I mean, this match became a staple of the pro wrestling industry following us starting, the triangle ladder match into TLC 1, TLC 2. This match became a staple, and it's something that still happens on a regular basis, right? A TLC match, and especially a ladder match, the way it was became a Money in the Bank deal, and it's like a staple in WWE. Like we were the guys behind all that, right? So the fact that they acknowledged Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Adam Copeland, and Jay Rizzo, 4 individuals that were under contract to another company at the time that dropped is a big deal, and it is them taking a step forward. And once again, honoring history, especially their history. And I love the fact that they did that so selflessly.
There's your draw.
Here we go. Yeah, no, I'm glad that they did that so selflessly.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I was watching the DDP one last week, and it opens up, and I hear my voice. So I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah. What about that? That's wild.
Yeah,
right?
I had totally forgot when I was hosting DDP Snake Pit that the A&E crews came to film us filming an episode, and there it was. I was like, "Oh,
what
cool.
year was that? What year was that, John?
That was end of 2022. It's like October 2022, something like that."
Yeah, that's like when it seemed like the newer interviews took place with Baba and with Devon and with Adam.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it would have been before Adam jumped over, so they had some time to put these together. Well, that's very cool, man. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, admittedly, but I definitely will, and I'm glad that the kids got to see it, and even Mama Hardy seemed to put it over on the TikTok and the Instagram. So that's always a good day when Mama actually puts wrestling over. So
the TikTok and the IG, yeah, she did.
We're gonna be talking about the Hardys. We're gonna be talking about the Dudleys. We're gonna be talking about the Road Warriors and the Hart Foundation over the course of this episode, because this was our Fatal 4 as you guys voted, and we're gonna get to the championship round, the finals of the greatest of all time tournament, to declare the greatest tag team in the history of professional wrestling, as voted on by you guys and initially picked by Matt. That's going to be in just a little bit here. Matt, we saw a pretty busy week in the wrestling realm, as it seems like every week is busy now, especially on the road to WrestleMania. A lot of the headlines this week were stolen by your old pal Dwayne. There were a few reports that some people were a little upset with some of the creative liberties Dwayne was taking with being able to cuss whenever he wants to and say whatever he wants to and do whatever he wants to. There was reports that standards and practices might not have been super thrilled with it. The Rock didn't seem to care too much, because the final segment of Raw, he bloodied Cody Rhodes, bludgeoned him, and even dropped an F-bomb. So what do you think of what Rocky's doing right now, man? I know you got a lot of respect and love for Dwayne. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I do. If I'm not mistaken, I think he responded to someone that had spoke about that report, and he said, "This is bullshit." Something along those lines. I dig what he's doing. The fact that he is one of the biggest stars in the world when it comes to the acting gig, when it comes to Hollywood, he's had all these box office smash hits and whatnot, and he's killing it on that front. The fact that he's back at WWE, he's somewhat of a boss, because now he's, sitting there with the rest of the boss when it comes to the TKO deal. the fact that he's making every show, I think, is a cool deal. And he is really invested in everything he's doing as far as this whole story and whatnot. And he's like pouring some classic rock into it. He's also keeping that story moving along. And the fact that he is fully committed about being a heel and not being afraid to be booed is something that I greatly respect about him, because I think there's some people in his position that would say like, well, I don't want to damage my popularity as an actor, or make people think that I'm like a bad person or a piece of shit or whatever. But he's kind of relinquished his fear of being an asshole and playing the gig as far as wrestling goes. So I like it. It's like every episode of Raw or SmackDown he appears on, it's like he's playing a bad guy in a movie, and he has totally adapted to that, and he's not worried about any backlash from it, which I think is very cool. I love the fact that they used this deal where he got very vicious with Cody. He beat the shit out of him. He fulfilled the prophecy. He made him bleed. He had the belt. He put blood on the belt. And the fact that Cody bled in that occasion, and I feel like it was done very right. Blood's something you don't see very often on WWE TV, obviously, especially over the last few years. But the fact that they did it and they positioned it in that way as the show went off, I thought it was very powerful, and it was a good use of blood.
Well, it's very unique how, he came out and confronted Cody and he said something to him that was off microphone. And it was essentially, I'm going to make you bleed tonight. And you had to watch throughout the course of the show to see what the payoff of that was going to be, which was really, really unique. And I thought that was very well done. My biggest problem with this, Matt, and I've said to you, The Rock was like my guy. That was like my number one.
Yep.
Matt Hardy was up there, but like The Rock, that was my dude. And I love Dwayne. I love that he is trying to shove it up people's backsides, that he, a lot of people would always get on, oh, your promos are very one-dimensional. You're playing the greatest hits and everything. He's clearly trying to do something very different. And I definitely appreciate that. The TV is super compelling. It's really, really good stuff. I feel Roman Reigns has totally taken a backseat to all of this. And the match we're building to is not Cody Rhodes versus The Rock. There is a match with Cody Rhodes and The Rock in it, that tag match, but the match is Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. We are allegedly headed towards potentially the big bad end of this 3.5-year title run for Roman Reigns. But who's to say? Maybe we're sitting the day after WrestleMania saying Cody should have won once again. We could be. But I just feel like Roman has kind of taken a backseat to The Rock. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe that's a story beat that you follow in the future. But if we're building the biggest main event in WrestleMania history between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns, I can't help but feel like I want to see Cody Rhodes versus The Rock more. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, one thing I can say is that you're going to get Cody Rhodes versus The Rock in essence the first night in the tag match. So I like the fact that they're building that, but I do understand what you're speaking of, and that does make perfect sense. And I do feel like that. Like Rock has came in, he's been so good. He hadn't been around. It's like people are really digging what he's doing, and he really has almost like stole the spotlight from Roman in some ways, and I can understand that. But it also depends on how they end that night one deal. How they finish that will make a huge difference for the next 24 hours about how many people get excited to watch that match. I think we need a big week for Roman coming up the week before WrestleMania. I think we need to highlight Roman, bigger than shit. But Rock has just built so much momentum, and I think people are genuinely looking forward to this tag match. And one of the things that I think is very good about it, that people are even having this discussion right now, saying like, well, do people want Cody to fight Rock, or do people want Cody to fight Roman, whatever? Like that discussion of like, hold up, they kind of messed up this angle in the beginning, because at first it was going to be Cody versus Roman, but then it was going to be Rock versus Roman, and then they kind of backtracked, and they did all this, and they changed. Like that talk is gone now, which I think is very good, which I'll give them credit for that. People have moved forward with what they're doing. And I think Rock has been so entertaining. He's been so good in his role. I think Cody is still killing it. I still love what Roman's doing. I think you have three powerful people, and also the stuff with Seth. I even want to talk about the Seth Drew Punk promo. It was entertaining as shit. Like I sat back and watched it all while I was doing cardio. I mean, it was so good. Like the way they took shots with one another. It was one of those promos where the lines were blurred and you couldn't really tell, like, are these guys like going into business for themselves, or, are these guys working together? You didn't know. And it was so good and so entertaining on that level. So I think WWE TV has done some good stuff. I was able to watch back Raw this Monday, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree, man. It was a really, really good episode of Monday Night Raw. And honestly, I feel like Dynamite as a whole has been really strong too in recent weeks. I feel like Osprey, Okada, the two of them to me really inject something very, very interesting into the men's side of AEW, and I'm really I think Osprey has come in so far, and he has totally proved everyone wrong. All these people that are like, well, he's great in the ring, but what does he offer as a performer in terms of his mic work? I think his promos have been so believable and biteable and digestible. I think he's just destined to be a major, major, major player. What do you think?
He 100% has the potential. I mean, he's an incredible performer in ring. Like people use that expression of like a once in a generation performer, but I mean, he really is. He is very, very special. And I also think too, he's been a good speaker. His mannerism, the way he expresses himself has been really, really good. And he just seems very believable. He seems very likable. And I think he is someone that can be a huge deal and someone that AEW can build around going forward.
Yeah. Speaking of AEW, anything else you'd like to share with us? Of course, the inquiries keep coming in day after day, Matt. What is Matt Hardy's future? What's in store for the broken one? Anything you can share?
So yeah, there is a little news to go along with my contract negotiations. I have an AEW contract sitting in front of me for a
Mm,
few years. And now I'm looking through it. I'm like deciding what I want to do going forward. There's obviously still some options. I got to make sure that I'm aware of the ins and outs of the contract, and I want to make sure everything is like up to par as far as like what I want it to be. Because once again, as I say pretty often, I know that I only have a couple more years left of doing this, and I want to make the most out of those years, whatever it may be. I want to be optimized in whatever I am doing. So that's very important to me. So I'm very happy to be invited to return to AEW and work for AEW for the foreseeable future. But we shall see, because right now I'm just currently weighing out the options. There's a couple things out there, and I would say in the next month I should probably know what my immediate future is going to hold.
okay. Okay. So you do have an offer in front of you.
I do.
Okay. Well, that's a significant update. Thank you for sharing that. That's
You got it.
look, man, balls in your court, right? You take a look at what's out there. It's great to hear that there's an offer from AEW. It recognizes that there's interest there in the Hardy legacy and the Hardy brand, and happy for you to hear that. And hopefully, whatever you decide on, it'll be the best decision for you, your family, and everything moving forward. So, and the wee fee that will come with retaining your services, of course, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, once again, just legacy is very important to me. Knowing there's only a couple more years left of doing this. Schedule is very important to me because I want to spend as much time as I can with my family. That is very important. And once again, just if I am working with Jeff, it is very important to me that the Hardys are optimized. It's very important that the Hardys, they go out on a strong note. That's what's important to me.
Fair point, man. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Anything else cross your mind in the wrestling realm this week?
There's one thing that I saw that I was very driven and motivated by, and I kind of feel like I am in that period right now. Back when I was doing, you've been a WrestleCade, you've been president to WrestleCades, if I'm not mistaken. After I did the WrestleCade match against Carlito, which was a ladder match, and it was the first time they crowned a WrestleCade heavyweight champion. I was obviously in that match. There was a guy who wrote for I want to say it was Pro Wrestling Torch. His name was Chris Shore, and he like wrote this article about me overcoming things, whatever. And he said that Matt Hardy was great, and him and his friends said that he was really over it. But he wrote this paragraph, and some of this kind of stuck with me, and not in a negative way, but it was very motivational, and it drove me. And I just kind of want to read it back. He said, "I saw a guy who beat all that. I saw a guy who, when he climbed that ladder to grab the title and pop the crowd again, completed his climb back to the top of his game. Matt Hardy will never headline a major wrestling event again. Those days are gone, but Matt Hardy still has plenty to give the world of professional wrestling, and the 2,500 fans in attendance were there to soak up every single bit of it that they could." Now, the thing that was motivating about that was just, he said he will never, main event anywhere else. Well, I main evented Ring of Honor. I helped get them on their first pay-per-view. I was a big part of that because that was the most mainstream name. I ended up main eventing events on WWE. The Ultimate Deletion was the main event of Raw, and people never thought that would have happened, right? With TNA, I main evented many times. I main evented, I won their World Heavyweight title. The Final Deletion is something in the Broken Universe, is something that kept them relevant and kept them on TV through their hardest days as we were doing that. And that became the most everything in the business. The return at WrestleMania 33, which was such a big deal. At AEW, I WrestleMania'd my first pay-per-view. I was there, the Double or Nothing and the Stadium Stampede. So it's like that stuff like that is very motivating to me when they doubt you, when they don't believe you, especially if you're working hard and you're motivated and you're busting ass. And I'm in one of those stages right now where I feel motivated, focused, driven, and I'm really excited. I want to close out my career the right way. That's very important to me, as I just said earlier. And lo and behold, I'm going to bust my ass so hard that the people who do doubt me, I'm going to make them eat words in some capacity.
Love to hear it, man. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. We are on to the finals of the greatest of all time tournament. Before I can reveal our winners, though, you know what I got to ask? Please, Matt Hardy, hit us with that Matt fact.
Matt fact. Matt's proud that 3 North Carolina teams are in the Sweet 16.
Ooh, that's going to be a lot to fit on a graphic. Yeah,
I know. and I wrote it a couple of times. I shortened it as much as I could. and just put the NC.
Okay, so your pulse has been on March Madness, huh?
A little bit. I think that's very cool that UNC, North Carolina State, and Duke are all in the Sweet 16. I thought that was very cool. And I'm a UNC fan, you know that. And UNC is going to be my first and foremost, but I've never been one of those people that have wanted the other North Carolina teams to lose or hated them because I was a UNC fan, because I was in the system or whatever. So I think that's very cool. And I even dig the fact that State is this far along. That makes me happy. So I would say my number one pick is going to be UNC. Second would be NC State. And then last would be Duke. But I hope they all do the best. I hope they all go to the Final Four. I don't even know if that's possible, because
I just hope that everyone has a good time. Yeah, I know your boy Hurricane's very excited about the Wolfpack.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, best believe as soon as they defeated the Tar Heels to win the ACC tournament, the first thing I got was Wolfpack. I just hit him back with one of these. I just took a picture of this and hit him back.
They've been on a hell of a run. It's crazy. Normally the NCAA tournament has so many upsets, and you get all these. I mean, especially the last few years. In the last 6 years alone, we've had 2 16 seeds beat a 1, which had never happened before. And now this year, there's barely any upsets. It's pretty much all top 4 seeds, with NC State being an exception. So you're actually going to see some of the best teams quarreling in the Sweet 16 here. So that's exciting. And the women's tournament has been outstanding as well. And Caitlin Clark is just one of the greatest players in the history of basketball, let alone the women's side. And she just got your boy Ice Cube.
I just saw that. I was going to actually bring that up. Yeah, I did see that Ice. Yeah, the big three that they reached out and offered or something. Yeah,
the big
which is very cool, because she has been making headlines and there's so much buzz around her right now.
They offered her like a $5 million deal, which is amazing. I mean, it's way more than she'll probably make in a lot of other arenas. So that's great to see, and very, very cool. Yeah, your boy MVP probably could have played in the big 3 back in the day when you were feuding with him.
You're right. He had a good shot on him.
He put you to the task. So go check that out in the archives, extremehardy.com, our MVP episode. One of my favorites. For sure.
One of my favorite things from that point. Sorry to cut you off there once again.
Please.
When Vince McMahon hit me, he said, "Whenever you dribble," he said, "be as overly white as you can possibly be." One of my favorite descriptions. I said, "Sure, you got it." I said, I would be plenty white if I do it, but I can dress it up for you even more. He said, "Whenever you're dribbling there to do that layup, be as overly white as you can possibly be."
There's a lot of pressure on you to make those shots too.
Yeah, well, at least it was a layup. If I'd had to if I would have had to make a shot from the distance, I would have been nervous. But at least it was only a layup.
Yeah, plenty of people have blown layups in basketball. So glad you're able to do that in front of millions of people on television. That's good. That's good. Okay, Matt. We had our Fatal Four matchups. It was you guys versus the Hart Foundation and the Dudleys versus the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom.
Ooh.
We described last week, we talked at length our reactions to what these matchups were. But to circle back and remind people, you guys versus the Hart Foundation, I feel like you and I both had a lot of respect for the Hart Foundation, but we were almost a little surprised to see them get to the Fatal Four here. What do you think it is that people just identify with the Hart Foundation?
I mean, I think Brett is beloved. I think the further out we're going to get, Brett will continue to be more and more beloved, and people will look at Brett as someone who was such a pioneer for modern wrestling because he had such a focus and he made believability such a reality in his matches. Right, the way he did things. He called himself the excellence of execution, and he really was. He executed things that was so crisp, so much snap on things. You know, he would take those front turnbuckles and people were just like, oh my God, his sternum, you know, just like he was so believable in all aspects of the game when it came to in-ring performances. So I just think Brett's love and then him and Anvil, they were such a fun combination because they were two very different entities. Anvil was funny, stroking the goatee. Ha, ha, ha. He was the power guy. Brett was the technical assassin. And they gelled together good. And once again, as you said, sometimes the Hart Foundations don't pop out as one of the greatest tag teams of all time, like the Road Warriors would. But I think Brett's love and the lore of Bret Hart and the way it has grown over time, I think strengthens and enhances the popularity of the Hart Foundation.
How badly would you have loved to have mixed it up with Brett?
I mean, so much. I mean, because I always thought Jeff was much more similar to Shawn Michaels, a high flyer, someone who like had great form. You know, like where I was the guy, my form wasn't as significant. It wasn't as great as Jeff's was. So that's why I kind of let Jeff do the flying, and I did the more meat and bones, the meat and potato type stuff. So I would have loved to. Brett would have been awesome. Like Prime Matt versus Prime Brett. I would have loved to get in the ring and just work with him and just listen to him and like caught it in the ring. That would have been fun as hell, man. I would enjoy the shit out of it. Brett is someone I have a ton of respect for. I loved his work, especially when he was a singles competitor. His match was perfect where he won the IC title. One of my favorite things ever because I was a huge Kurt Hennig fan as well. And I love the fact that I've gotten to know Brett a little bit over time and speak to him and interact with him and whatnot. And he's just a good dude, man. I really enjoy being around him.
What did Brett do that made the people that he worked with better?
I think his believability was one of the things. I think when you saw Brett selling or either Brett on offense to get someone, it just seemed more believable. It was easier to put down your window and just be sucked into the match. And I think that is something that Brett was very gifted at. You know, he just allowed you to come into the match and you're like, wow, this seems so believable. I don't really have to like take myself out of reality because this seems like it's so real. It seems like a real fight in so many different ways. And I think on both sides of the coin, I think if Brett was selling for someone, it'd be easy to think Brett was hurt or he was being very credible. It looked like a real injury, whatever it may be. And on the other hand, when Brett was doing stuff, his stuff was so good and it was so crisp. You're like, holy shit, this guy's kicking the other dude's ass. You know, and I think his believability is what drew people in to the story so much.
How would you have laid out a Hart Foundation versus Hardy's match? Let's say the Hardys are the baby faces, Hart Foundation are kind of tweener heels. How would you lay that match out?
If I was going to lay out the Hardys versus the Hart Foundation, I think I would do some stuff where you have maybe me and Brett to start. We wrestle around a little bit. We do some stuff, whatever. Like I said, meat and potatoes, good, solid, good, entertaining stuff. I love the shit he would do with the hammerlock where you run around and drop and the guy goes out of the ring. Do some of that stuff. Then have him come out on top of me. Jeff ends up coming in. Jeff outdazzles him a little bit with some of his speed and doing up and overs and whatever, kicking him in the back, whispering the wind, whatever. And then there's a point where Anvil comes in. He's who shuts us down. You eventually get steam on me, and you end up leading to a comeback with Jeff coming in, firing up on Brett. Once he drops him, then you bring Anvil back in, and then you do something big. You get him down. You do something where the Hardys eliminate him, and then we end up going to the finish with Jeff and Brett.
And who wins?
I'm gonna say that Brett goes to scoop Jeff up for a sharpshooter.
Small package.
Yeah, he goes to shoot Jeff up for a sharpshooter. He's struggling. He's trying to get his foot through. Jeff gets his other foot, kick. Eventually gets one big kick to his jaw, spins him around. I slide right in. Illegally, boom, twist of fate, drop. Jeff goes over, boom, swanton.
Illegally? Okay. So having to stoop just a little low to pull off a victory over the Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but also too, Jim Neidhart cheated to get the heat.
That's fair. So, you're just evening the odds. That's all.
Evening the odds.
Okay.
You know, an eye for an eye.
I feel like it would have been very Brett if Brett was trying to step through for the sharpshooter or something, and then Jeff rolled him up 1, 2, 3. Like that would have been a very Bret Hart finish.
That would be very Brett, no doubt.
You know, if he were to just sneak one on him, and that almost puts over Jeff as having outsmarted Brett too, which is kind of something I feel like Brett would have been into. Well, Matt, you don't have to decide who wins this match because we had our Extreme Life of Matt Hardy voters decide who would win this match to see who would move on to the finals of the greatest of all time tournament. Would it be Matt and Jeff Hardy? Would it be Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart? With 80.5% of the vote, moving on to the finals of the greatest of all time tag tournament. Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys. Come on now. Was there any doubt?
No. There's always doubt, John. There's always doubt.
The Hardys moving on to the finals. We have not been telling people how to vote here. This is free reign, that you have free will to vote however you see fit. But Matt, we thought the Hart Foundation might have gotten some beneficial votes to this point, having knocked off the Briscoes, having knocked off the Midnight Express. But their run comes to an end against the iconic Hardy Boys, the living legends themselves. That's a big win in your cap, man.
That's very big, especially 80%.
Yeah. How you feeling? How you feeling? Moving on to the finals of the GOAT.
I'm feeling good about going to the GOAT. How many people do we have vote?
We had about 1,000 votes for this one.
All right, good.
So another big showing for Team Extreme. Moving on to the finals. Next week will be our championship reveal, who wins. And you're gonna have stiff competition, Matt, because regardless of who wins.
I know why, even though the other team should technically have gone first. I think they were on the side of the bracket that should have went first. I understand why he went with this match second, because like the Dudleys and the Road Warriors is a huge toss up, which I have no idea who's going to win this.
Yes. So I wanted to break it down for you. Yeah, you guys were the number 3 seed. The Hart Foundation were the number 10. In this one, we had the number 1 seeded Road Warriors versus the number 13 seed Dudley Boys. Again, this was all randomized seeding, but this was going to be a barn burner. You thought it would be. The Road Warriors, they got past FTR in round 1 pretty manageably, and then it came down to a handful of votes where they just squeaked past Edge and Christian.
Right.
Depriving us of a battle between Edge and Christian and the Dudley Boys in the Fatal 4. The Dudley Boys had to get past the New Age Outlaws. I don't know if you know, someone tweeted us randomly this past week. They were livid that the New Age Outlaws were eliminated in the first round. They couldn't believe it. They were like, these are the most decorated tag champs of that era. But they did lose to the Dudley Boys, another one of the most decorated tag team champions of that era. The Dudley Boys then got past your friends, the Young Bucks, to move on to face the Road Warriors. Matt, if this match happened, you'd have to think this would just be a slugfest, right?
Yeah. I mean, this match would be great. Once again, I would love to see this match happen. See the way Bubba sells for the Road Warriors. That would be something I'd be very interested of. And I would love to see a point where they do get the tables, Devon, and the Road Warriors go through a table and there's just a complete no sell. That I'd be a big fan of that.
Now, I know Bubba was very big about protecting stuff. You think he'd be down with that?
I think he would for this. Yeah, I do. I 100% think Bubba would be okay for Road Warriors no selling a table. He might want to get something on the back end following the no sell, where they even it up and they do something and get him through another table where he does.
Well,
sell
what if because we know both had two of the most protected finishers of all time. What if they both kicked out of the Doomsday in 3D?
I mean, that'd be interesting too.
Yeah,
That's
Because
wrestling in 2024.
but then it's legitimately, oh my God, I don't know who's going to win.
Right.
If they each kick out of their super protected finisher, I'm not saying
Mhm.
you do a million of them, but if each of them hits it
Sure.
once and they both kick out, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit.
But this is the kind of match you could get away with that in too.
Sure, of course, because they're
And
badasses. They're four
nobody
badasses.
would even bitch about it. Yeah.
Yeah. You know where I would have loved to have seen this match? Not even in WWE. I would have loved to have seen this match in Japan. This match in Japan,
Yep.
where they just beat the shit out of each other, would be unfreaking believable.
I would have also liked to see this match at ECW Arena during peak ECW
Sure.
Arena time.
I'd almost be curious who would be over in that. Like who'd be the babyface in ECW doing that match? Because the Road Warriors mid 90s, man, they were just so freaking cool. They were so
Yeah.
cool. Everyone
Sure.
loved them. And I'd see them doing very well in that arena. I mean, who do you think would come out on top? How would you lay out a finish of this match?
I think it would be interesting to put them in the environment where the Dudleys, let's say what they're working the ECW Arena, where Bubba comes out and he goes on the rant, right, with the crowd, the riot rant, where he starts insulting people, saying these derogatory things to the fans, da 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 da, this, that, and the other thing. And you do that, you try and build off of this heat. The LOD come in, try and make it established that there's a clear cut difference between the good guys and the bad guys, and with the Dudleys being the bad guys and the Road Warriors being the good guys. I think if you looked at their legacy, if you went past that and you calculate all the things the Dudleys did in WWE, the TLC years, if you calculate what they did in TNA, if you calculate the sum of their careers in totality, I think you might still have them get cheered, even if they go out and intentionally try and be heels, just because they are legends on that level, especially being the most decorated tag team in wrestling history when it comes to championships. That's an undisputable fact. But I would book this match where I would have them beating the shit out of each other. I would have them like no selling some things here and there, whatever. I would have them doing crazy stunts, whatever. And I feel like if I was going to say, Devon get the tables and do that and put them through the table, I would have the Road Warriors sell that. But then I would do something where there's a scenario where it's not their typical taunt, their typical go-to, where someone gets knocked off the apron or off someplace outside a balcony and they crash through a table that has already been preset there. And then you just have the Road Warrior like rise up from the dead, and and then the Dudley guy jumps on him and they continue with the action. Maybe not do it in their specific character bit. Don't do the no sell there. Do the no sell, which seems like it comes out of chance, out of luck, maybe even possibly. But I would book that where it's just like a kick-ass match, a kick-ass brawl. I would have them fight all over the building. I think that would be very entertaining. And then at the end of the day, maybe we even give that a shot where the Road Warriors hit the Doomsday device, you get a kick out. The Dudleys hit 3D, you get a kick out.
Deep
And
kick
then,
out.
Yeah. And then you get to a scenario where there's some sort of either super 3D or super Doomsday device, and that secures the win.
Yeah, it would have to definitely be some sort of like Avalanche 3D or something. That would be very cool. Man, what a fun match that would be. I mean, you got me excited hearing something like that. I love peeking in your brain thinking about how you'd actually put that match together. Matt, who do you think won this matchup?
I gotta say, I feel like if the Road Warriors are going to be defeated, this is probably their best opportunity to be defeated. So I think I would go with the Dudleys defeating the Road
So you think the
Warriors.
Road Warriors got past Edge and Christian, but are unable to get past the Dudleys?
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Why do you think they had a harder time getting past the Dudleys than Edge and Christian?
because I think that there's just more equity in the Dudleys as a tag team because of their longevity, because of everything they did in ECW, because of everything they did in
Sure.
WWE, because of
They're-
everything they did in TNA.
They're pretty comparable in terms of accolades. Like
Mhm.
they've all worked everywhere.
Right.
They've wrestled everyone under the planet. Two huge finishers, larger than life personalities.
Mhm.
They're very comparable tag teams. And we did get a vote with a decisive winner. 62.5% of the vote to 37.5% between the Dudley Boyz and the Road Warriors. The winners of that matchup, and moving on to the finals of the GOAT, not for $100,000 in the services of Terry Runnels, but rather bragging rights on the extreme life of Matt Hardy, facing the number 3 seeded Hardy Boyz, the Dudley Boyz. We
There you
have
have it.
ourselves a good old rematch of Royal Rumble 2000, the Dudley Boyz versus the Hardy Boyz, to determine the greatest tag team of all time. What do you think, Matt?
Well, there you have it. This is a scenario I could see playing out. I could see it coming down to this, and this is just going to be a hell of a battle, man. Two of the most decorated, two of the greatest tag teams of all time, and two guys that have done this tango many times over. Two guys who help make one another, or two teams that help make one another. Two teams that made amazing history in pro wrestling. So yeah, I'm excited and yet nervous because this is going to be our toughest.
It's
challenger
tough. I
yet.
mean, you
No-
guys
no
very well
doubt.
could lose this. You could lose
Yes,
this
no
very
doubt.
easily.
No doubt.
That's amazing that it came down to.
And I ain't gonna be mad at that either.
No,
You
of
know,
course.
even like when you mentioned, you said like there was no tournament, they didn't have to win a best of 5. You know, there was no Terry Invitational tournament. We can just retcon that anyway, just like they did on Rivals the other night. You know, they just left that straight out.
Oh,
All for the
they
better.
left all the TIT out.
Yeah. I mean, they said we had a best of 5 tournament, and then
Okay,
they
so they
just
did mention it. They did mention
showed
it.
clips from the match. I mean, but that was all. Oh my God.
Oh, we got the Gothic baby back.
Here. Okay, you can sit here for a second, okay?
Tata.
And be a good girl. Listen.
So that's amazing, man. That we got 2 out of the 3 TLC teams in the finals here.
Tata.
The Dudleys, which
Yes.
Dada is part of the Hardys, but
Yes, Dada-
we
That is
got
part of the Hardys.
we got
Tata.
if Bully Ray was your Dada, we'd be having a very different
Watch, come-
discussion here.
come here, come
Gothic
here.
baby.
Come here, Evie. Evie, come here real quick, and I'm going to put this on you one more time. Look, Evie. Evie, did you like the Dada movie we watched the other night?
No.
Remember?
We win the Tata movie.
The Dada movie? Was Dada doing crazy things?
Me too.
Wrestling? Hey, do you like going to the wrestling ring?
When was the
Do you want to go to the wrestling ring today?
No.
Do you want to wrestle?
It's a nice day outside.
Oh,
It
it's
is
a
a nice
nice day with this
I don't know if
storm,
it's a
yes.
nice day outside, but
It's a very nice day. I think.
And
All right, you're very cute though, and people like you. So look, Evermore.
the
I'm gonna
Dudleys used to
finish
do
up.
that too, except they did was that.
Yeah. Hey, look. No, silly girl. Look, Dada's gonna finish, and then we'll go play outside or play in the ring, okay? Because it's in a building. Yep. All right. So let Dada finish. Okay. Thank you. Tell everybody bye-bye. Yeah. Dada's gonna finish so we can go later. All right. All right, there. Okay, go outside, baby. Go outside. Go tell your mother. All right, go tell your mother we're gonna go wrestle in a little bit. You do that, all right? Bye-bye, daughter. Okay.
So they did that one. So
Yeah.
we got the Dudleys versus the Hardys in the finals. You guys, I was gonna count how many matches you've had together. It's just too much to count when you add in the house shows. There's just so many that you've had.
Yeah.
You've talked at length about your chemistry with Edge and Christian over the years, but we've never really delved into your chemistry with Bubba and Devon. What
Mhm.
worked for you guys in the ring together?
I mean, I think for us, just the very basic formula of wrestling, the time-tested and true formula of having two bigger opponents wrestling the younger guys that were going to work hard to outsmart and outquick them, and outmaneuver them. And I think that always worked for us. That's what we used. Those matches were a lot more simple than the matches we had with Edge and Christian. We would do more, interesting reversals or different maneuvers or combinations of things, a lot more athletic type stuff. I think with the Dudleys, it was a lot more just bare bones. And I think it was just you have these two big, tough, badass brawlers, and then you have two guys that are ready to like stick and move and bring the fight to them, and that just always worked.
What were their two greatest strengths as in-ring opponents for you guys? Like intangibles.
It's especially as being heels, their biggest strength was their ability to relinquish their fear of being an asshole and go out there and get heat. And the more they would get heat, the more they would piss the crowd off, then the more the crowd would be behind us. And that's something that's great. That's something it's something you almost have to be in the business to realize, like, you're a much better babyface if you have a great heel in the ring. It's so important. If you have like a half-ass heel who the crowd, if they're still trying to do things that'll, get a pop or get cheered or whatever, it's harder, especially if they're a popular act, right? Or they're well known. So the Dudleys were very committed to being heels, which I always greatly appreciated that whenever we faced those guys. And the other thing was that they had a great respect for us, and they knew that we were very beloved, and they would always make sure to do things that wouldn't make us look bad or weak. Even when they were in the midst of like getting heat on us or whatever, they would make sure to tell Jeff to fight back if he needed to, which sometimes Jeff, I feel like he would oversell, because he says, one of Jeff's sayings, he says, I shine when I sell. But there's sometimes Jeff would get too deep into a sell, and people forget that he's there still fighting from underneath. And they were really big advocates of always fighting for underneath. They would never let Jeff die out. So that's one thing I greatly appreciated about him, especially when he felt like he'd taken some devastating stuff from Bubba or Devon. He might have the tendency to oversell a little bit. So they always made sure to keep us alive. They always put us in a position where we looked smart. We were being smarter than them. They didn't do things that would make us look bad or look dumb. And we just had a great respect for one another too.
You guys have some of the most memorable matches of that era, defined an entire era of wrestling, and it all started with that tag team tables match that we covered here in a very early episode of the podcast. Were you ever nervous kicking the tires with them? Because they had a pretty aggressive reputation coming in from ECW, but how quickly did you guys start to mesh together?
Pretty quickly. There is a funny story, which I won't go into too many details. There was someone who worked at ECW that shared something with me that had later came to WWE, and said that there was one night where where Michael Hayes had suggested like we get a new finish once we started teaming with him, right? And he had different ideas about things to do. And, we ended up using the twist of fate, which he was going to call just like that in the beginning. He said, well, what if we did as a double team move where, Jeff picked up the guy's on the shoulder, or you picked up the guy on the shoulder, and then you grab the guy's head, and then you flip underneath and you do the twist of fate like that. And it's a tag team move. And I remember we did it on Shotgun.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, we did it on Shotgun. And
you did it on a few indie shows too at the time, I believe.
We may have, because Michael wanted us to work on that, and we told him we would, because it was his suggestion. He thought it was something that would work. And whenever we did that on WWE TV, I remember telling him before we did it on WWE TV, when he first suggested, I said, well, Michael, I said, that's kind of like, the Dudleys 3D. And he said, who are the Dudleys? And I said, from ECW, the ECW tag chance. He says, are they on WWE TV? And I said, well, no, they're not. He said, well, fuck them then. He said, if they're not on WWE TV, he said, nobody does the move here. He says, so just do it. But someone had passed along a message from him. He said, hey, Bubba wants you to know, if you ever do that again, he's going to like whip your ass. And that was one of the first interactions I'd ever had. And I didn't actually interact with Bubba. It was just like a message that was like given to me, but via someone else. So that was interesting. I remember when I first saw him, like we said, hey, what's going on? He said, oh, it's very nice to meet you guys. So excited to work with you. Very nice. And it was respect all the way through, right from the jump, So, but that's such a funny story that was out, because they were they were through there. And that's one thing I credit Bubba for, being so protective of his finishes and whatnot.
He was very protective of the 3D. That's a great story. I love that. And we know that they would have one hell of a run in their own right, outside of WWE, inside WWE. I mean, they were just as decorated in TNA even as Team 3D. Like they had a
They
great
were.
TNA run that a lot of people tend to forget.
They were great in TNA. And
Mhm.
Bubba was great on his own. The stuff he did as Bully Ray was so good.
I mean, the fact that we call him Bully right now and not even
Yeah,
Bubba tells you that he
right.
shed that identity, which I think is pretty impressive in his
It
own
is.
right. It's a tough one, man, because it's really going to come down to whatever resonated with you when you were watching these three teams wrestle. Like if it was the acrobatics and the death-defying stunts and the rock star mentality that really resonated with you, then you'd probably be more prone to vote for the Hardys here.
Right.
But if it was the physical brutality and the violence and the over-the-top craziness that really captured your attention, you might want to vote for the Dudleys. So that's, man, that's going to be just so. When you were in the ring with them, height 2001, 2002, how did you feel the crowd was receptive to both teams? Like, did you ever feel like the crowd was split? Did you ever feel like you had control over something, they had control over something? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that dynamic.
I mean, it was just very, very, very established and without a question, it was very much in bold print. Both teams were over. So if they were baby faces, they were over as baby faces. We were always baby faces during that time, right? We weren't heels ever. If they were being heels, they would dial in and they would be heels to the best of their ability. So we knew teams were going to be over. And I feel like that's the most important thing in this day and age, especially you see it now more than any other time. Like as long as these acts get here, if it's two baby faces, if it's two heels, what as long as both entities are over, that's the most important thing. Because if you have an act out there that people care about, if they give a shit about, if they have some sort of emotional tie to them, people are going to be into the match, especially if you play the match right and you build the match right and whatnot. And we knew we would always have that with the Dudleys.
But it's like the Hardys would be obviously clear-cut baby faces. The Dudleys would be heels. But the moment he says, Devon, get the tables, everything changes. All of a
Sure.
sudden, the Dudleys are massive baby faces. Everyone wants to see the tables. The
Yeah, I
moment
mean,
they do was up, everyone wants to see that.
I mean, that's a sing along. I mean, and that's part of what WWE does, and that's something I learned whenever I was Matt Hardy version one, the Sensei of Attitude. I said I can be, a dickhead. I can be a heel and seem like a piece of shit person. I said, but I need to have things that the crowd is going to want to come alive for, or that they're going to want to either, put a taunt up, or they're going to get with that makes you a star. And I feel like that's very important. I feel like when you go out there and you work, if you're trying to be a heel, you really do need to relinquish your fear of being an asshole. I say that over and over, but I mean that's what it is, because so many people are afraid, like, what if they don't like me? What if they don't like me? You have to yearn for people not to like you if you truly want to be a heel. But there's also a point, because it is entertainment at the end of the day. There needs to be stuff that like people relate to you, that they associate with you, and they can kind of get with and get behind. And once again, I think you can utilize those things, and then you can completely flip the script and turn it right around and get right back into being a heel after that too. But it drives crowd interaction, and that's a very important factor. You need crowd interaction. Pro wrestling is so much about entertainment. And one of the first things I think I saw our boy Danny Cage say something about this. Once again, shout out to Danny Cage and the Monster Actor. He said, when you learn pro wrestling, it's not about pro wrestling. You've learned something, or something along those lines. It said that a while back, and it's like, that's really right. In so many ways it is. Like the pro wrestling product that you do in the ring, especially when you're doing televised pro wrestling, it's not necessarily all about that. It's all about your character. It's all about your story, and what are the beats you're hitting that is following your arc, and what your character would do typically. And what are those things that really establish you over and help you form a strong bond with the crowd. They love you night in and night out. And those are things that really make wrestlers at the end of the day.
Well, it's like that old video. If you've never watched this, you definitely should go out of your way. It's from like 2015. Max Landis made it. It's called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. I do remember that. Yeah, that was a big deal. It went viral, right?
Yeah, it went super viral. It's very entertaining and very, very funny. But it chronicles, what's up, Maxel? It chronicles Triple H versus Shawn Michaels and their whole story. And it talks about how you don't need to know anything about pro wrestling or even care at all about the action that happens in the ring to be able to follow a good story. And
Right.
that's kind of what you're getting at here. Maxel, I got a question for you, man.
Okay.
I know,
Yeah.
obviously, the Hardys, your favorite tag team of all time.
Yeah.
But in this tournament that we've been doing on the show,
Mhm.
the final round is going to be the Hardy Boyz versus the Dudley Boyz. Now, I know you just watched that movie that had the Dudley Boyz, the tables, and all that stuff. Did you like the Dudley Boyz? What did you think of the Dudley Boyz when you saw some of their stuff?
They're okay.
They're the people who put people through
I
tables.
know.
The tables was their thing. The ladders was myself and
Would,
Jeff. And
would
then-
you rather fall off a ladder or go through a table, Maxwell?
Ladder. Yeah.
It's in the blood, man.
It is. It is. Maxwell, what move do you like doing the best when you're out of the ring? If you jump off the top?
Like from the top up.
Yeah, look at the camera, man.
I don't know, kind of just like jumping on me.
I know, but would you rather do a splash? Would you rather do a swanton? Would
Uh,
you rather do a leg drop?
a leg drop.
A leg
Oh.
drop?
That's a
Oh,
bad
no.
answer, buddy.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna teach you how to use those sparingly, so you don't walk funny like me. But
Yeah,
I
you're
do
not-
think, Max, when we were riding bikes the other day, as I'm sitting down on it, it helped loosen up my hips some. So
Oh,
maybe that'll benefit me.
the Jimmy legs loosening
Do
up.
Jimmy legs.
Okay,
Do Jimmy legs on a bike.
that's good. Yeah, Maxwell, that leg drop, you don't want to end up with a fused pelvis at the end of the day like your dad. So it's not the ideal here, but
Okay.
you're gonna do great, bud. I know it. Do you have the itch, Maxwell? Do you feel like one day that might be something you want to do?
Maybe.
What
Okay.
what would you want to do for money when you get older?
I don't know yet still.
You enjoy pro wrestling, right? You like wrestling. What else? You like streaming.
Not as much, but
What else do you like? Here,
I don't
look up
know.
at me. Is there anything else?
Mm-mm.
Do you want to ride bikes?
I mean, I
You
know
could
you're
actually-
into your guitar.
Yeah. You have a guitar? Yeah, you've got a guitar lesson coming up today.
That's great. That's awesome, man. Well, that's a talent that your dad hasn't had. So if you got
Yeah.
that comes from mama.
That's
That's
true.
for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
No, man, I think that it's going to be an awesome finals here. If I had to ask you, Matt, how could you see this one playing out? I know we let it play out here,
Yeah, we
but
did.
how could you see this one playing out?
I don't know. This one could go either way. I'm torn all to shit. You couldn't put a needle up my butt with a jackhammer, as someone used to say back in the day. That's a big Marty Garner line. All right,
Marty
see you,
Garner.
Maxwell.
See you, Matt.
Thanks for coming. First name Sham, last name Payne.
Yeah, I know.
Uh,
First name Sham, last name Payne is really enjoying Rock's run here. He's using it as a chance to remind everyone that Rock put him over.
Yeah, yeah. Big shout out to Marty. Yeah.
Next thing I know, we're going to be taping this podcast next week after screw that. I'm going to be on Strictly Business with Eric Bischoff talking about new TKO board member, Marty Gardner. That's what's really
Oh
going to
my
go
God.
down. But yeah, man, it's going to be a great final. We want you guys to vote. The voting is open now. Let us
Yes.
know who is the greatest tag team of all time, the winner of the greatest of all time tournament. Very excited to see who you guys pick. I don't think we have any prizes other than like a celebratory golf clap, but I promise you that we are going to dive into the winner next week and discuss the results. And I think, Matt, next week too, ahead of WrestleMania, I think we should do our first. I can't believe it's our first of the year, but we'll be in the beginning of April, and it's time to do an Ask Matt. I think we can take the pulse of the people and answer some
Yeah.
questions. How do you feel about that?
I dig that. That sounds great.
Okay.
And ask Matt, and you find out who won. Which boys won? Was it the Hardy or the Dudley Boys?
How 2000s was it that you both had Z's at the end of your names?
Very 2000s. Amazing. We were so lucky because, they initially went with the Hardy Boys just because our legit government name is Hardy, right? And they're like, oh, well, remember the Hardy Boys, the mystery guys, the guys who solved mysteries said, oh, just let's call them the Hardy Boys, right? So we did that, and it kind of caught on a little bit. And then like once we signed, they said, "Oh well, that's copyrighted though. Now we got to like put a Z on it." So, but that's okay though. It's very 2000, very 90s, very 2000. And then the Dudley Boys got the same treatment too because they didn't want to risk getting their deal misused from ECW because they were the Dudley Boys with an S, so they just stuck a Z on there as well. Just
There
to
you
clean it
go.
up and make it WWE.
Those damn Dudleys. It's a shame that most of the other Dudleys never made their way over to WWE. Like Spike made his way over, but not Big Dick Dudley or Sign Guy Dudley. None of those guys made it over.
Yeah,
shame.
the Dudleys, man. It
What a
was
shame.
it was a wild time. I loved watching the Dudleys when they were doing their stuff in ECW. I enjoyed their work greatly.
You probably would have ended up working with them in one way or another, which is kind of
I
cool.
would have,
So,
yeah. It would have either been at WWE or ECW, one way or the other. Yes.
so that's kind of cool. Dig that. Good stuff, Matt Hardy. I want to remind everyone that if you want to get on board with our podcast, advertisewithhardy.com, we're going to have a couple new sponsors in the next few weeks that we're going to be sharing with you guys, and we're super grateful for them joining us, and we want you to as well. Advertisewithhardy.com is going to be the place that you can find all that information, get your business, get your product out in front of thousands of listeners every single week on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. And of course, our 2 live shows, we're just a week away, April 5th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time at WrestleCon, the Sheraton, downtown Philadelphia. 4 o'clock start time, MattHardyLive.com. Matt's going to be talking all about the TLC. It's a very intimate conversation. You're going to be able to ask him questions and talk all things TLC. And then, of course, later that night, 9 p.m., over at the Monster Factory in Paulsboro, New Jersey. It's going to be a fantastic time. Matt and I are going to be in the middle of the ring doing a podcast, taping it, and answering questions about how to make it in the pro wrestling industry. Matt's going to be unleashing his knowledge upon all the millions and millions of Hardy Boyz fans out there. Going to be a fantastic time. Anything else you want to add, my friend?
No, it's going to be enjoyable. One thing I do want to say is, as always, thank you for everyone who check out The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy each and every week. And if you are a newer fan and you haven't gone back into our archives and looked at our archives, we would love for you to do that. There's so much great content back there that you'll love. Sometimes we talk wrestling, sometimes we talk live, which I enjoy doing both. And if you do go back and you enjoy these episodes, please, you can support us by leaving a review. And if you do, please give us 5 stars. I really wanted to get that in. It's been too long.
It has been a while. I'm glad we hit we get the greatest hits here too. We didn't talk about food on this podcast. That's the other bingo card. You got to get that taken off. But good stuff, man. And I'm excited to see you in a couple weeks. Good luck this weekend. Where throw it out there. Where are you heading this weekend?
I will be at the Squared Circle Expo in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am going to be there Friday from 4 to about 9 p.m. And then I will be there Saturday from 9 to 3-ish. 10 a.m. to 3-ish, something around those times. And it's going to be myself and Jeff. The Hardy Boyz with a Z are going to be there.
Great. Well, if you listen to this podcast and you ever get a chance to go to a Hardy Boyz or a Matt Hardy meet and greet, bring up that you listen to the podcast. That's almost a guaranteed way to get Matt even more engaged in chatting with you. And he usually even pops up some videos whenever fans tell him. So that's like a guaranteed way to make Fan Friday. So definitely. Definitely make sure you do, folks. The words have been spoken. This has been The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. We will see you next time.
Delete!